Today's release doesn't introduce something new, but it brings into focus something that you may not have noticed. If you've used the starter config, you may have noticed on the maintenance tab, there is a setting in the first column if you scroll down, apply Windows Update settings. This is something that you probably don't know where the configuration for is, and it hasn't actually been in the config screen. Previously, this was only available up under the internal menu under Windows Automatic Updates Settings, which launched this dialog where you could actually configure the settings for the machine that you're on, but you could also save it as a profile for later when you would use this option under the maintenance menu. And so if that's part of your auto mode routine, it would then apply those settings from then on. Just because that's not very intuitive and you may have never noticed it before, I finally added that to the config screen. So if you go to config under OS customization, you should see the new Windows Update Settings tab. And just to give you a quick explanation of what this is, under our standard settings column, you have the update option, which is your automatic download only notifier disabled, where you can disable Windows updates. This tended to work well in the past, but not so much with Windows 10. So we also have group policy settings. And group policy settings tend to stick, at least until a major Windows 10 update. Windows tends to expect your group policy settings to be refreshed because it expects you to actually be on a domain when you have group policy settings. So sometimes they do get wiped, and there's actually an option in D7 that will wipe these settings as well, all of your group policy settings. Windows will usually expect that when you're on a domain, these settings get replaced with group policy update. Usually happens at user login. But in any case, just to explain the advantages here, we have basically a lot of the same options not configured under group policy means that, well, your policy is not configured. But you can, say, try to disable Windows updates with group policy by setting that here, or you can leave it on automatic, or which is the default in your standard Windows settings. You can also try download only, which is a good option, or notify. Because if you want to, be notified if there are updates available without Windows automatically downloading them. You can also choose the scheduled install day, and of course these settings do override the standard settings. And I also have some additional group policy settings up here. None of these options are particularly helpful except for enable non-admin to postpone restart and start installation early. So basically, only your administrative user can postpone a restart by Windows Update, or even start one early. When you check this option, that will enable standard users to do the same. This is a very important one, no automatic reboot with logged on users. And you want that. You don't want Windows ever to reboot. So really, if you're not even using these settings for much of any configuration whatsoever, even if you don't really care how the customer's computer is, if it's on automatic updates or not, you probably at least want to check this option so that Windows doesn't automatically restart when a user is logged in. It will force the user to choose the option to restart. And along with that, you're going to want to enable the option above just so a non-admin user can postpone or anything else. But again, no automatic reboot with logged on users is definitely the main reason to use this functionality. You can also have it disable multiple reboot warning timeouts, but when you do that, it will force a reboot after 5 minutes, so I don't recommend using that setting. We also have show the restart later nag only once. That's a good one. And this bottom option, use WSUS server instead of Windows Update website. That actually is for domain networks again, which have Windows Server Update Services role installed on their server, and that would be like an IP address and port. 99.99999 people will never use this, and if you do, it will probably be in a customized config that you only run on domain systems, only within your network. So in any case, just wanted to show off that you can at least disable the automatic reboot with logon users, because that's very important. So we can just save those settings here. And now when you check this option, and you can save that as part of your auto mode profile, when that option runs, every time it will create that group policy setting that doesn't allow people to log in or applies any of the other settings that you've configured. If you don't have this, if you didn't choose the starter profile with d7x, and you will have had to add this to your list manually. And if you need to do so, you can just right click anywhere in these lists, click add app/function. It will tell you that you have to use the right mouse button for drag and drop here. When you add app function, go to d7x all functions, just do a little search for Windows Update. We'll have a number of functions here, and you just find that apply Windows Update settings, and then you can drag and drop to your list. So I just actually added it to that list. And I don't want to keep it there, but that should do it.